everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Home Tech. I'm Seth Johnson, and I'm joined, as usual, by Jason Griffin. Jason, man, how's it going?
Pretty good, Seth. How are you doing?
Doing well on this early Sunday morning again.
Yes, indeed. We're kind of shuffling our schedule around here. Second week in a row, we've kind of sat down on a Sunday morning to record, and I gotta say, I'm a little bit hungry. I think after this, I'm gonna go. Was thinking about cooking some eggs, but I have a bit of a dilemma because I'm not totally sure if my eggs are fresh.
Well, I know if my eggs are fresh anywhere in the world.
Did you like my setup there?
I did. Yeah. So I was playing around Tuesday, and was kind of poking around on Amazon, just doing nothing. And then I saw this little thing, that comes up and says Amazon recommends for you. There was the Quirky Egg Minder, which is a Wi-Fi enabled egg tray. And I said, that's interesting. And then I looked down at the price, and it was $9 with Prime. So I could get it in 2 days.
Right. And this thing used to be like 50, didn't it? I mean, I remember this thing when it came out.
Yeah, exactly. Regular price was $49. So I went over and, we have an egg tray now, but it doesn't have Wi-Fi, of course. I mean, why would it? But yeah, I went over to Target to look up what the, current egg tray that we had was costing, and it was like $12. So I was like, you know what? For $9, I get an egg tray with Wi-Fi. Done.
$9 is a compelling price point for that. I have to admit, $50 was a little rich for my blood.
Well, I bought it and then promptly went over to the news and saw that Quirky was going out of business. So, whoops.
Yeah.
It probably explains why the fire sale there on Amazon.
Then that's when you connected some dots, right?
Yeah. But I got it in on Thursday or Friday. I'm not sure. I kind of joked that everybody else was getting an iPhone S, and I got a Wi-Fi egg tray. So, who won on this one? I think it's me.
Well, I got to say, you did a great job. You put an article up on the HomeTech.fm blog and kind of gave a review of the product, and I thought it was a really well done article. Kind of the lighter side of home tech, but at the same time, definitely made some valid points and kind of let people in on this particular product. Again, with Quirky and Wink kind of going by the wayside here, I'm not sure how long the specific information in that article is going to be relevant. However, I thought there were some great points in there in general about the Internet of Things and devices that come into our lives and fill, what might seem like trivial things to some people, but maybe seem really neat and useful to others. And so I thought it was a great article.
Yeah, we'll put it in our show, or a link to the article in our show notes. If you want to go read it, it's over at HomeTech.fm/blog. I guess it's in there. But we'll put a direct link in the show notes just in case you want to find it and go there. And our show notes this week are at HomeTech.fm/81.
And we'll move on here from the Internet of Eggs.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say there's a little follow up to it after the article. That's my first impression, and I've getting a lot of feedback from the internet community in general about how well the product works and other people that have had it. So maybe I'll compile all of my complaints and questions later on and put it in an article later on. But so far, so good. It's for $9, hard to beat.
Yeah, definitely. And, speaking of that story, this is big news, obviously, that Quirky is going bankrupt, and it's something that's been kind of circling around the tech blogs here, I think, for, a little while. And it just, I think, speaks to kind of what's going to happen with, the smart home and consumer electronics and the Internet of Things kind of at least making its way towards the mainstream. And Quirky just had a business model that clearly was not sustainable and got themselves into a hole that they weren't able to dig out of, and hence the fire sale. And I guess the business as a whole was on the selling block, and it looks to me like I believe it did sell.
It has not sold. In fact,
okay.
This week, the Tuesday, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So that's the reorg bankruptcy. That's the reorganization bankruptcy. And there was a bid by Flextronics for $15 million to buy the company. But they have, I think they have over $100 million in debt. So It's a huge struggle, I think, for anybody who wants to purchase the brand and dig out of that $100 million of debt. That's a big mountain to climb, and it looks like Flextronics, who makes the quirky Wink hub, is saying, well, we'll put in a bid for $15 million, and if the courts say that that's a good bid, then they'll go ahead and take it. They left it open though. Like there's a possibility that someone else could still come in and buy it for $16 million or whatever. The trustees or the people that are owed in this situation, in a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, the people are owed, and the courts would have to approve any other bid that comes along.
Gotcha. Yeah, the headline I saw says Quirky files for bankruptcy and accepts $15 million bid, but I guess that goes to show how much I know about how these things work. In any event,
it is accepted. I mean, it's kind of like one of those preliminary things. Yeah, it's this type of bid. If somebody else better comes along that the court says, or in the debtor, that people that are owed money say that it's a better deal, they can take that too.
Got it. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. In other business news, we're talking about on Twitter and over on the Hub just briefly this week about streaming music service Deezer is getting ready to launch an IPO, and Deezer is a service set that I think you've been using, correct?
Yeah, it was actually when I saw this article come through on the Hub. They're over at our Slack channel. I was listening to Deezer at the time, and I enjoy it. It's got this nice little thing called the I think they call it Flow. And I can press play and just listen to whatever's coming over that channel. I'm really not sure how it figures out what to play, but it makes for mostly an interesting time. Yeah, there's music I particularly haven't heard of because Deezer is not based in the U.S. It's based in France. So we get a little bit of different music, mix of music and licensing that come from that direction, I guess.
Sure. Oh, that's a kind of cool feature too. I'm familiar with Deezer by name, but I haven't taken the dive in to use the service yet. And that sounds like kind of a cool feature, that Flow. I mean, I think a lot of times for me, it's I just want to be able to hit play and like not give a lot of thought to what I'm going to listen to. And the ability on like a Spotify or an Apple Music to go in and create playlists and all that is great, but not always what I want. Sometimes I just want to be able to hit play and let somebody else or something else, like as in an algorithm, kind of do the thinking for me, right? And so that's kind of a cool feature. But the takeaway for me on this story, as I was reading it, my initial kind of knee-jerk reaction to the headline was sort of, I have to admit, like, well, good luck with that. Apple Music and Spotify have seemed to be really taken off, and they're going to have kind of an uphill battle. But when you read the article, that is acknowledged, and they say that Deezer is really, like you alluded to, they're based in France. The IPO is actually on the French stock market. It's not here in the U.S. And part of what their strategy is to target more of the emerging markets. I think they mentioned China specifically, and that kind of served as a reminder to me that not just streaming services, but all of this technology in general. I have to admit, I oftentimes think of it through a filter of being in the United States and thinking about what's big here and what's important here. And a lot of times I think it's easy to forget that this kind of stuff is happening all over the world. And there's a lot of markets and emerging markets. And I think that to me was kind of the interesting aspect of the story, and kind of, allowed me to sort of, I guess, step back for just a second and realize like, hey, this, I think the quote from the article was, streaming services are not necessarily going to be like a winner take all proposition, and there's still a lot of room in the market for different offerings. So I think that's interesting.
I totally agree. And last year they launched Deezer in the US at Cedia. So we're coming up on a 1 year, the first year anniversary as Cedia quickly approaches. And last year they actually, when they launched, they had a big coffee bar and you could get espresso. So I'm surprised that you didn't head over there and get some free coffee.
No, we did. Yeah. I did. Yeah. Okay. I wouldn't miss free coffee.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think actually you and I were checking it out together, and I did take a look at it, but looking at it on a Cedia show floor and and diving in and using it for a few weeks are obviously different
Two different
things.
things. Yeah.
And I just haven't taken that dive into really experiencing it. So.
Well, speaking a little bit about a Cydia product, Snap AV, which I don't think they launched overseas at the time. I think it was a little bit later, but they have their new service called Oversee. It's a connected, what would you call it? Like a service portal?
Yeah,
kind of like a monitoring.
Yeah, remote monitoring system management tool for dealers. So really cool offering. Actually, we use it at my company, and it's basically like I said, remote management. So it gives an integrator the ability to kind of monitor a client system and remotely fix things should issues arise. And I think that's definitely a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and one that I'm very passionate about. I mean, I think that is the future of the smart home industry and business. Just that providing kind of managed services and being that guy who can be not only on call but proactively managing client systems, I think is huge. And that's what Oversee is really all about.
Yep, I got a quick story about Oversee, but I just want to mention that there's a little article that's kind of been announced ahead of time that Snap AV will be adding IP and HD camera services into Oversee, so you can actually monitor, get an image of what's going on out there, as well as kind of seeing what the internet connection is and being able to reboot devices. I had a story this week. Or a client this last week. He's over in Germany, and I got a notification saying that his camera system was down. Since he does have one of these Snap AV Oversee, he has one of the power products enabled in there. I was able to go in and try and reboot things. Well, it said it was down completely too. So I quickly figured out that his internet was down. Told him, hey, this is what's going on. Do you want me to send somebody out? And we sent somebody out, and it's all fixed. It's up and going now. So, pretty cool product. I really like being able to proactively solve issues like that before the client even knows about them.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's really kind of the name of the game. And Oversee is one offering, and iHeG is a product that we've talked about before, is another one. And I think we're going to continue to probably see a few more of those pop up. And so certainly one of the top themes for me that I'm going to be watching at Cydia this year is tools that enable us as integrators to provide that better level of proactive service and management of our client systems.
Yep. So speaking of things that may be in our client systems, Roku says they're going to have there's rumors that the 4K Roku 4 is going to be coming out any day now, which may happen by the time the show is edited and put out. I'm not sure.
It looks imminent. And the stories that I've read have all been kind of about leaks. We were kind of laughing about this before we hit record here. And, it's the one story was, there was kind of two aspects to this leak. And one was about a company accidentally pushing out like a promo that Roku was doing. So there's a company called Cinema Now. I'm not sure exactly what they do, but in any event, they had kind of accidentally pushed out a promotion that was about, if you buy a Roku 4, you're going to get 4 free HD rentals with a Roku 4 purchase. Roku 4 is not out yet, so that was clearly probably not something that should have gone out, and that of course made its way onto the tech press and kind of started doing the rounds around the internet. And then there was another aspect to this story that I saw where Roku enthusiast site, apparently there's a website called UK Roku Channels, and they had spotted a 4K showcase channel. Now, I'm not super familiar with Roku, but the assumption there, kind of the gist of what I'm reading here, was that I guess the Roku 3 presumably does not do 4K. So to see a 4K showcase channel would imply that there's I guess some new hardware coming out, and that was spotted, and then that page was quickly removed from the channel store. After it got publicized on Twitter. So a couple leaks there, and of course got the rumor mill flying. I know there's a ton of people who use Roku. It's a very popular product. I'm not one of those, but certainly it's a great offering and a product that's been around for a while, and would not surprise me to see some new hardware come out of them here sometime soon.
No, not at all. And the people that I know that use Roku really do like it. What they like most about it, I guess, is kind of being defeated with the new Apple TV OS. But they like the ability for pretty much anybody to add a channel onto the interface. It's now Apple's version is a lot less open because you still have to get approval for that. But Roku, the ability to add a channel. So a channel is something that like a container of video files, basically, is fairly easy to do. And I've set up a couple of Rokus for clients. I have one actually sitting on my desk, but it's a very, very old one at the office. And it's a decent product. It works really well. And I can say that I would be happy owning one too. I've never plunk down the $79 to do it because I've always had an Apple TV sitting there,
right,
doing pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of the great thing about all these streaming boxes now. Roku, Apple TV, Chromecast, Fire TV. I mean, they're so affordably priced that if you're so inclined, there's really very little stopping you from having both. And there are some different services. For us, it's always been about a client, if they do use Amazon, then that's really Roku. And if not, then I don't know, we've just always kind of liked and sold the Apple TV. That's certainly not to say anything disparaging about Roku. I've always heard great things. I know for a long time now, one of the big selling points and features that people really liked about Roku was the universal search, where you could search for a show title and it would go out and search across different streaming services, as opposed to just doing a search on the older Apple TV. You'd have to do a search within Netflix, and then if you didn't find what you wanted, you'd have to go over to the Apple Store and do another search within there. Now that is, of course, as people probably know, that is going to be offered on the new Apple TV. So again, not something that Roku will have the edge on necessarily, but 4K is big. I mean, for certain people, and we've talked about 4K a lot on the show, and whether or not really it's a huge deal, and that's a whole kind of another conversation. But it does look like this offering from Roku will include 4K, while the new Apple TV, of course, does not. So certainly something to consider.
I'm going to be patiently watching and waiting for all of the posts online that complain about not getting 4K out of the Roku 4 player because of all the limitations that HDMI has put on it, including not, having it HDMI, what is it, 2.2?
Well, yeah, HDMI 2.0, and then there's HDCP 2.2.
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the TVs have 4 HDMI puts on it, but only one of them or two of them are ready for HDCP 2.2. So there's going to be a lot of tricks to getting that to work correctly. And if you're an integrator, look out for those. If you are, an end user and you want to figure that out, it's going to be a little bit tougher. You may need to break open the TV manual and see exactly what is implemented on your TV.
Yeah.
Or you're just not going to get 4K. You're going to get 1080p or 1080i.
Yeah, and the important point there, obviously, being that there's no way the Roku would release this new product without HDCP 2.2, because that is a hardware issue. So that's not really the concern, right? It's about the legacy, the existing hardware that you have in your system.
Yep.
So maybe the Denon receiver that's 4 or 5 years old, that might be where you're going to run into your bottleneck. So that's where you need to really be paying attention. As you were talking there, I did a search inside of this Roku story, and of course, because this is all kind of rumor mill and speculation, it doesn't specifically say that it will have HDCP 2.2, but there's just no way that it won't, being a 4K device. So again, a good point, something to pay attention to, but people need to also understand the nuance of that.
Yep, I wish it was as easy as plug and play, but
yeah,
we're still in the plug and pray mentality.
For quite some time, I suspect.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, speaking of new product that's out there, Kwikset, a little bit off the video and audio portion, and move over to some home automation news. Kwikset has released a set of smart locks that lowers the price by removing the keypad. It's kind of interesting, huh?
Yeah. I thought this was kind of a cool looking product, actually, and in my opinion, a smart move by Kwikset for a couple of reasons. They're simplifying the smart lock, with presumably their primary concern in doing this is obviously to open their product up to a broader swath of the market. So people that weren't necessarily willing to go out and spend $200 or more on a smart lock that might have a keypad, or maybe some, what this article is referring to as frills, might be willing to go out and buy this lock for a little bit cheaper. and still have some of the smart home functionality, but, not quite have to spend so much money. So this one is coming with a $150 price tag, and it's just a simplified version. If you look at the form factor, it looks very much like just a traditional, keyed deadbolt, right? When you're looking at it from the outside of the door, it kind of has that more traditional form factor, but it does have Z-Wave built into it, and you will be able to kind of, have some of those smart features. So I think it's great. And in addition to the lower price point, which I think is obviously important, I do think also that there are people who might be turned off by a more techie looking device. And there are people who, price aside, might actually prefer to have something that looks and feels more traditional and just have that kind of smart functionality cooked in behind the scenes, so to speak. And I think that's something to be considered as well. And that's why I think this product generally is a smart offering from Kwikset, and something that I think is probably going to do pretty well in the market.
I would say that too. The problem I already have with it, just right off the bat, is it doesn't have the keypad, and that's the major reason that I bought a smart lock, because I locked myself out of the house. So I've actually done that a number of times since having the smart lock, and been able to get back into the house without having a key. So I think losing that feature is pretty major, but I guess if you have your phone with you, it's not that big of a deal, because you'd be able to go in through your app on your phone and unlock the door and then walk right in.
Right.
I do like that this actually looks a lot better than having the giant keypad on the front door. I've always been I've always been a proponent of not putting the smart locks on front doors, because they just never matched up. Now you could do that, but you could also have one with a keypad maybe over on a garage door or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was, as you were saying that, I was thinking the exact same thing. Like this could be on that main point of entry that you're really concerned about the aesthetic. And then, you go around to the mudroom entry around the side or the back of the house. And that's where, if you have that oh shoot moment, I locked myself out, then you just walk around the back of the house and you've got your keypad there, which I agree is very convenient and a really nice thing to have.
I'm just trying to look up prices. Now, these smart lock prices are just kind of all over the place, but list price for the electronic deadbolt that I have is $233. I didn't pay $233 for it, and you can buy it on Amazon for $105.45 with Prime shipping. So I suspect that this one had a retail price of $149. I suspect that this is going to be below $100 easily.
Yeah, sounds like
it when it gets out. And, yeah. So good for Kwikset. Good for putting this on your front door and not having it look like you live in a
spaceship.
Prison. Yeah. So this is
the keypads are great though. I mean, I completely agree with you. We've got one at the office that I just love. It's great. I would have one at home in a heartbeat, but I live in an apartment. But it's definitely something that, when we do buy our first house, I think smart locks to me are a no-brainer. It's one of those home technology products that really, as much as I love the audio and the visual stuff, and I can totally geek out on it, I think that this is a product that really kind of sells itself. And people that aren't even really into all the techie stuff, you could show them kind of the functionality and that ability to, provide a combination for your keypad for maybe like somebody who needs to come in and do maintenance on the house and things like that. I mean, there's just a lot of different convenience factors when it comes to smart locks. And I think they're really a product that we're going to see just really take hold in the smart home moving forward.
Yep, absolutely. Well, speaking of products that just haven't taken hold, this is kind of your baby, Jason. This is what gets you excited here. We found an interesting video over on Forbes about gesture control in the smart home.
Yeah, and this is not a story I want to spend a lot of time on here, but I thought the video was funny, and we'll put a link up to it, on the show notes again, which can be found at HomeTech.fm/81. And the headline of this article is "Gesture Control Still a Pipe Dream?" ? And clearly, after you watch the video, the implication is that yes, it still is a pipe dream. And I think it's about a 2-minute video, so not a long investment of time. One that I would definitely encourage people to go watch, and I think you'll get a good laugh out of it. It kind of, the gist of it is 3 guys around a table, and they're they're talking about, current gesture control offerings that are out in the market, and they've got two specific ones that they're demoing. The names of those two specific products are escaping me right now, but the point is that they really just don't work the way that they're kind of advertised, right? And I think the takeaway, again, with gesture control, similar in my opinion to voice control, is just that it has a long ways to go. And I do think it's going to be an offering someday that we're going to see, but I think it's going to be a while. And right now, the products that are coming to market are really, I look at them almost as still as prototypes. Voice control, I will say, I think is much, much further along. I think we're a lot closer to having voice control become something that people really take hold of and get used to using in their homes and actually maybe start using it day to day. I think gesture control is much further down the road, in my opinion. But in any event, it's a great video, and I'd encourage people to go watch it, and you'll get a good laugh out of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of not saying why it's so funny. They have these products, and they spend about 10 minutes trying to figure out how to get them to turn on and off a light, and it never gets done. At the beginning of the video, they're real excited, and they sound so excited for gesture control, and then at the end, they're like, "Yeah, it's not ready.
It's not ready. I'm just gonna go hit the light switch."
Yeah.
And I mean, that. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, that's another one of the points that we make here on the show is that replacing control with a voice or another interface is really strange for humans in general. I mean, we like to have that tactile feedback, and we always hit on that. You like to be able to press a button on the wall to turn the light on and off, rather than going to your phone, launching an app, finding the light, and then pressing the level you want it to be at. That's going to be a very hard thing to replace accurately. And gesture control, we're going to master voice control well before we master gesture control. This looks like it's so far out right now.
Yeah, it does. And yeah, thank you for summarizing that for me. It you just kind of see them a little bit exasperated at the end of the video, and towards the middle of the video when they kind of do a sort of a compilation, and they're cutting in between the guys doing the different gestures, and it just that was the part that I thought was just hilarious. But
yep,
it all comes back again, just to put a button on this and move on. It just all comes again back to that traditional form of control, and something that I'm always talking about with my clients and end users in general is don't forget about tactile traditional control. Apps are great. They have their place. But you really want to make sure you've got enough physical buttons in the house to control all your lights, all your shades. When you get into doing video in your living room, you want a traditional handheld style remote with hard buttons on it. And let's make sure that we account for that in the system design. I think is super important.
Yep, you can't do everything by apps, and as it turns out, you can't do everything by voice control, because when the server's down, it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. This one, Seth, I want to let you kind of give me your thoughts on. I know that Amazon Web Services, so AWS, had an outage that caused a little bit of, I guess, mayhem for users of Alexa, and possibly woke some people up at night, maybe not so comfortable of a situation.
Yeah. So Alexa is Amazon's product, and of course Amazon has a massive service they use for back-end web developers and pretty much anybody running any kind of service to purchase and use like low-cost servers, and that's what AWS is. So when that goes down, it is felt around the internet, so to speak, and it looks like that Alexa is, of course, built on AWS, and when it went down earlier this week, it decides to disconnect from the service. And what's really funny is Alexa, when it loses connectivity with the internet or the service, it starts talking about it. Like, I'm sorry, I can't connect to the internet right now. You may want to check your settings. And of course, that's all well and good if you're standing right in front of it and expecting that to happen.
Right.
But as my wife has complained a couple of times, it's kind of spooky when we lose power in the middle of the night and it reboots and says, "Hello." Really creepy.
Oh, that is funny.
Yeah. It's definitely something that wakes you up and it's probably a setting that we haven't gone in and turned off, but it's definitely something that wakes you up in the middle of the night and can can spook you out, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, I mean, I think it's a perfect example of kind of the law of unintended consequences, right? And when this feature was initially put in there, it was thought that, oh, hey, this will be a nice thing where it kind of, I don't know, a welcoming message to let the end user know that it's ready to go or whatever. And probably just wasn't really thought about in terms of, well, what happens if the power goes out in the middle of the night and everybody's sleeping and you've got this thing maybe next to your bed or something. And that's just, I'm assuming there's got to be a setting in there that you can go and turn that off. But it seems to me like maybe a firmware update's in order where that thing doesn't do that if there's a power outage, between the hours of 10 o'clock at night and 6 in the morning or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems to me like kind of a bad design. That particular aspect of it just would freak me out.
Yeah. And this article is pretty hilarious that we'll link to in the show notes, called "The Night Alexa Lost Her Mind." It's something, happened in the middle of the night, and then there was yelling coming from the living room is what he put in there, which is hilarious because that's how you are when you're not quite awake and you just hear some voices coming from a different room in your house in the middle of the night. It's kind of will creep you out and jolt you out of bed. But this also kind of highlights a problem that we have with these cloud-based automation products. I mean, as you and I both know, if you have a Crestron or a Control4 or Savant system, this doesn't happen. I mean, you may get outside of the house and not be able to access, back into it if one of their remote services go down. Mm-hmm. But that's only for a couple of hours. It's not like in the middle of the night it starts doing strange things because it's not connected to the internet anymore.
Right.
And if you need to turn on your lights, you could do that locally without having to go back out to the cloud and tell the lights to turn on. So I think that kind of highlights a feature that we haven't had to worry about at all, or an issue that we haven't had to worry about at all. But when you get into these products that are somewhat lower cost, I mean, it's $200 for the Alexa, and then for a basic Control4 processor, you're looking at $700 or $800 somewhere in there. So it highlights that too. Like it's you're paying less, but it's also relying on these massive data centers to actually process and do things for you, rather than it being done and programmed locally inside the house.
Right, and that's part of the way that they keep the cost down. Right, is they put all that processing and a lot of the horsepower is up in the cloud, which is great, makes the device really affordable. But then what happens when your internet goes out? And so that's the key question, and certainly something that I'm always leery of with any sort of offering that depends exclusively on having a connection to a server. Obviously connectivity in our world has gotten to a point where it's our uptime is pretty impressive when you really step back and think about it, but you're still going to have outages. And if you're using that system to control something like lights in your home, then that can be a big deal. So definitely something to pay attention to and consider if you're out there, designing a system or thinking about something that you're going to put in your own home. How does this thing handle a loss of connectivity?
Yep, and if it comes down to being able to, control your lights or in the middle of the night, you don't want that to disappear. You don't want that feature to go away just because the internet's down and the service or the servers can't connect back and talk to your devices inside the house. That's not such a big deal, moving forward. I think there's going to be a lot of ways there are workarounds for that. But I think right now it's just something we have to keep an eye out for. Yeah,
definitely. All right, Seth. Well, I think that kind of wraps up what we wanted to touch on this week. I enjoyed sitting down and chatting with you. Hopefully, if you're listening, you enjoyed the show. Once again, as usual, we just want to remind you that Home Tech is a proud member of the Technology.fm family. That, of course, can be found at Technology.fm, and that is a curated collection of sort of technology-related podcasts that we'd encourage you to check out. If you're into ours, you'll certainly find some other ones that you'll enjoy over there. And again, just want to thank everybody for listening. If you enjoy the show and want to leave us some feedback or maybe make a suggestion for a future episode, we'd love to hear from you. You can do that at HomeTech.fm/feedback. Or, of course, we are on Twitter, and you can find us there at HomeTech Podcast.
Yep, and you can always support the show by leaving us a review on iTunes, good, bad, otherwise. But the reviews really do help people discover the show, and hopefully it's a good review, not bad, but whatever.
We'll cross our fingers.
If you'd like to leave a review, just please head over to iTunes and leave us a review. You can also stop by our website and check out our support page on there, which links out to our Patreon, which you can become a member for as little as $1 a month, and that will get you access into the Hub, which is our private Slack channel that we use to communicate to our Patreon sponsors, and there's a lot of good stuff that goes on there during the week. Have a lot of fun. Just this last week, there were a couple messages and exchanges that went back and forth.
Yeah.
But it's been a lot of fun. Been a very interesting thing that we've done here with that Slack channel. So we're real happy about it.
Yeah, it's a great room, and like you said, a lot of fun. So we'd encourage people to go check that out. And Seth, once again, enjoyed recording with you, and we will chat next week.
Yep, time to go and make some eggs.
All right, take care.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.